The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council chamber stretched high above the assembled delegates. Light from 3 different suns filtered through the transparent walls, casting rainbow patterns across the polished floor. 847 different species had representatives sitting in the curved rows of seats that spiraled around the central speaking platform. The air recycling systems worked overtime to accommodate the breathing needs of beings from methane breathers to those who required pure oxygen. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the speaking podium, her simple black Earth diplomatic uniform stark against the elaborate robes and biosuits worn by the other delegates. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and her brown eyes remained calm despite the weight of what she was about to do. Behind her, the holographic display showed Earth's population statistics, resource outputs, and military capabilities. The numbers looked pathetic compared to the massive empires represented in this chamber. Chancellor Vexithera of the Zephyrian Empire rose from her elevated seat. Her reptilian features were covered in the ceremonial silver scales that marked her rank, and her forearms gestured in the traditional opening ritual. When she spoke, her voice carried the authority of 10,000 years of galactic rule. "The Council recognizes the human delegate," Vexithera announced. Her words were translated instantly into 800 different languages through the neural implants all delegates received. "You have requested this emergency session to respond to Resolution 847 Alpha. The Council awaits your compliance." Sarah looked around the chamber. She had spent 5 years learning the names and cultures of these species. The insectoid Clavari, who communicated through scent. The energy beings called the ethereal communion, who existed as glowing clouds of plasma. The aquatic Hydarians in their water-filled suits. The machine race Nexus Collective with their perfect chrome bodies. Each species had once been proud and independent. Now they all served the Council's rigid order. "Honored Chancellor," Sarah began, her voice steady. "Earth has carefully considered Resolution 847 Alpha. We have studied the population redistribution requirements. We have reviewed the military vessel surrender protocols. We have examined the resource extraction quotas." The Manthari delegate, a being that looked like a cross between a spider and a tree, clicked its mandibles nervously. The Manthari had been Earth's closest ally since humanity joined the Council 200 years ago. They had warned Sarah that this moment would come. "And?" Chancellor Vexithera prompted, her serpentine tongue flicking out to taste the air. "Does Earth accept the Council's wisdom?" Sarah took a deep breath. In her mind, she saw the faces of the 6 billion humans who would die if Earth followed Resolution 847 Alpha. The Council claimed Earth was overpopulated, that 60% of humanity needed to be relocated to work camps on distant worlds. Everyone knew what relocation really meant. She thought of the children playing in the parks of New Geneva, the farmers tending crops in the African Federation, the scientists working in the lunar laboratories. "Earth rejects Resolution 847 Alpha," Sarah said clearly. "Furthermore, Earth hereby withdraws from the Galactic Council, effective immediately." The silence that followed was total. In 10,000 years of galactic civilization, no species had ever voluntarily left the Council. The translator system struggled to process her words, as if the concept itself was too alien to understand. Chancellor Vexithera's scales shifted from silver to deep red, a sign of extreme anger among her people. "Impossible," she hissed. "No. Species leaves the Council. The Council is eternal. The Council is order. The Council is a lie," Sarah replied, her voice growing stronger. "You call it order, but it's slavery. You call it peace, but it's oppression. Humanity chooses freedom over your version of paradise." The chamber erupted in chaos. 847 different species began talking, shouting, singing, or communicating in ways human ears couldn't detect. The ethereal communion blazed brighter, their plasma forms swirling in agitation. The Nexus Collective's chrome bodies clicked in word as they processed this unprecedented data. Admiral Marcus Torres, head of Earth's military delegation, stepped forward to stand beside Sarah. He was a tall man with gray hair and scars from the border wars with the Rigel pirates. His uniform bore no fancy decorations, just simple rank insignia and a small patch showing Earth's blue and green surface. Earth has prepared for this day, Torres announced, his voice cutting through the noise. Our ships are already moving to defensive positions. Our colonies have been warned. Our people stand ready. A delegate from the crystalline hegemony, a being made of living diamond, spoke in a voice like breaking glass. The humans are bluffing. They have no real military. They are Tier 7 auxiliary status. They maintain our waste recycling systems and repair our communication networks. Sarah smiled coldly. That's exactly what we wanted you to think. She activated her personal communicator, sending a coded signal to the human ship waiting in orbit. Within seconds, new data flooded the chamber's displays. The delegates stared in shock at what they saw, Earth's actual fleet composition. Not the small collection of patrol boats the Council believed humanity possessed, but a massive armada of ships unlike anything in the Galactic databases. Vessels that used fusion drives the Council had banned as too dangerous. Weapons that combined technologies from dozens of different species in ways that violated fundamental physics. Most shocking of all, artificial intelligence systems that other species considered impossible to control. For 200 years, you've treated us like children, Sarah continued. You gave us the jobs no one else wanted. Cleaning your waste, fixing your broken equipment, maintaining systems you'd forgotten how to repair. But every time we fixed something, we made it better. Every time we cleaned up your mess, we learned how to make a bigger one. Chancellor Vexathara's forearms trembled with rage. This is madness. Earth will face immediate economic embargo. No trade, no resources, no support. You will beg to return within a year. We've been preparing for that too, Admiral Torres said. He activated another display showing Earth's hidden infrastructure projects. Asteroid mining operations that had been disguised as research stations. Closed-loop agricultural systems that could feed billions without outside resources. Manufacturing facilities built into the moons of Jupiter that could produce everything from computer chips to starship hulls. While you've been comfortable with your traditions, we've been innovating, Sarah added. While you've been following the same patterns for 10,000 years, we've been learning. While you've been maintaining order, we've been preparing for chaos. The Manthari delegate, whose name was Clickthought Pattern 7, rose from his seat. His species communicated through complex scent releases, but he used the vocal translator for the benefit of the chamber. The humans speak truth, he said, his mechanical voice carrying undertones of regret. This delegate's hive mind has observed their preparations. They have surpassed our technological capabilities in many areas. The Council has been unwise to restrict their development. Traitor, shrieked a delegate from the Avian Consortium, a bird-like creature with metallic feathers. The Manthari side with the rebels. Click Thought Pattern 7's mandibles clicked in what humans had learned was the equivalent of a shrug. The Manthari side with survival. The Council's rigid structure cannot adapt to change. The humans represent change. Perhaps violent change, but change nonetheless. Chancellor Vexathara activated her personal authority codes, bringing the chamber to order through sheer electronic dominance. When she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of absolute power. Very well, she said. If Earth chooses exile, Earth shall have it. But understand this, Ambassador Chen. The Council maintains order in this galaxy. Without that order, there is only chaos, war, destruction, the deaths of billions. Are you prepared to have that blood on your hands? Sarah met the Chancellor's gaze without flinching. Are you prepared to have our blood on yours? She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device that looked like a child's toy, a simple cube made of earth materials, plastic, metal, and glass. She placed it on the speaking podium where everyone could see it. This contains the complete technical specifications for every system humans have repaired, improved, or maintained. For the past 200 years, she announced. Quantum relay networks, hyperdrive calibration matrices, artificial gravity generators, life support optimization protocols, power distribution networks, everything. The delegates stared at the small cube. They were beginning to understand what Sarah was really saying. When we leave, she continued, we're taking our knowledge with us. Every human engineer, every human technician, every human who has ever fixed something for the Council. Gone. You'll have to figure out how to maintain your civilization without us. Impossible, whispered the crystalline delegate. The systems run themselves. They have for millennia. No, Admiral Torres said. They run because humans keep them running. Your species built these systems, then forgot how they work. We're the ones who've been keeping your lights on. Sarah picked up the cube and slipped it back into her jacket. Earth offers this knowledge freely to any species that chooses to leave the Council and join our new alliance. But the Council itself will receive nothing. She turned to face the assembled delegates, her voice carrying across the vast chamber without electronic amplification. For 10,000 years you've told yourselves that order is more important than freedom, that stability is worth any price, that some beings are born to rule and others to serve. Today humanity rejects those lies. We may be outnumbered. We may be outgunned. We may face hardships that would break other species. But we will face them as free beings, making our own choices, accepting our own consequences. Earth withdraws from the Galactic Council not in anger but in sadness. Sadness that a civilization capable of such wonders has chosen to become a prison for its own people. Chancellor Vexathar's scales had shifted to deep black, a color Sarah had never seen before. The Council will respond to this rebellion with the full force of galactic law. No species has ever successfully opposed us. Your little planet will be reduced to cosmic dust. Sarah smiled sadly. Maybe, but even if you destroy us, you can't unthink the thoughts we've shared. You can't unknown the knowledge we've spread. Other species are watching this transmission. They're learning that the Council can be defied. The age of absolute order is ending, Chancellor. The question is whether you'll adapt to the new reality or be crushed by it. With that, Sarah Chen turned and walked toward the chamber exit. Admiral Torres and the rest of the human delegation followed her. Their footsteps echoed in the stunned silence. As they reached the massive doors, Click Thought Pattern 7's voice called out behind them. Safe travels, friends of the Manthari. May your courage inspire others to seek freedom. Sarah paused at the doorway and looked back one last time at the chamber where humanity had spent 2 centuries begging for scraps of respect. Goodbye, she said simply. The doors closed behind them with a sound like thunder. Above the planet, human ships were already beginning their journey home, carrying with them the news that would change the galaxy forever. In her cabin aboard the flagship UES Constitution, Sarah Chen sat down and began composing the message that would be broadcast to every human colony, every human ship, every human heart across the stars. People of Earth, she wrote, today we chose freedom. Tomorrow we fight for it. The revolution had begun. 3 weeks after Earth's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, the first signs of trouble appeared in the Centauri sector. The quantum relay network that had carried messages between star systems for 8,000 years began experiencing random failures. Communications that should have taken minutes started taking hours. Some messages never arrived at all. On the planet Zephyr Prime, Chancellor Vexathera stood in her command center watching the status displays with growing alarm. Red warning lights flickered across the massive holographic map of the galaxy. Each light represented a communication failure, a trade route disruption, or a system malfunction. Report, she commanded, her forearms moving in sharp, angry gestures. General Corax, her military advisor, approached with obvious reluctance. His scales were a nervous pale green. The failures started in Sector 12, where the humans had their largest technical support station. Now they're spreading outward like a virus. Explain, Vexathera hissed. The quantum relays require constant calibration, Corax said, consulting his datapad. Microscopic adjustments to account for stellar drift, gravitational changes, solar, wind variations. The original designers built in automated systems to handle this, but over the millennia, those systems became outdated. And the humans have been manually maintaining the network for the past 50 years. They claimed it was routine maintenance, but now we realize they were the only ones who understood how to keep it functioning. Vexathara's tail lashed violently. Behind her. Find their technical manuals, use their procedures. General Corax's scales shifted to an even paler shade. We tried, The humans took all their documentation with them. What they left behind is incomplete. The manuals reference techniques and principles that aren't in our databases. On the other side of the galaxy, Admiral Marcus Torres stood on the bridge of the UES Constitution, watching similar displays from a very different perspective. Where the Council saw chaos and failure, he saw opportunity and justice. Status report. Commander Davis, he said to his second-in-command. Commander Davis, a young woman with short red hair and the intense focus of someone born in space, smiled as she read from her console. The Council's communication network is down 30% and falling. Trade routes are backing up at major transit points. 3 different sectors have reported supply shortages. And our networks. Operating at 112% efficiency, sir. Our AI optimization protocols are actually improving performance as they learn the system patterns. Torres nodded grimly. How long before the Council realizes the extent of the problem? Based on their bureaucratic response times, I'd say another week before panic sets in. Torres turned to face the main view screen, which showed the peaceful, blue-green disk of Earth floating in space. Around it, construction ships worked frantically to complete the defensive installations that would soon be tested. Send a message to all human colonies, he ordered. Implement Operation Lighthouse. It's time to show the galaxy what we've really been building. Across human space, ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels suddenly revealed their true nature. The freighter Mary Celeste extended weapon arrays that emerged from hidden compartments. The research vessel Darwin deployed shield generators that had been camouflaged as sensor equipment. The mining ship 49er activated fusion drives that should have been impossible to mount on a ship that small. In the Rigel system, Captain Elena Vasquez commanded a ship the Council had registered as an agricultural transport. In reality, the UES farming simulator was a prototype stealth destroyer equipped with technology that combined human innovation with reverse-engineered alien systems in ways no other species had ever attempted. Sensors detect a Council patrol approaching, her tactical officer reported. 3 ships, Zephyrian design, they're hailing us. Let's see what they want, Vasquez said. The main screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a Zephyrian warship. The captain was a typical example of his species. Tall, reptilian, with the arrogant bearing that came from 10,000 years of galactic dominance. Human vessel, the Zephyrian captain said. You are ordered to submit to inspection under Council Regulation 847 Beta. Prepare to be boarded. Vasquez leaned back in her captain's chair, her expression casual. I'm afraid that's not going to happen, Captain. Earth is no longer subject to Council regulations. All ships in Council space are subject to Council authority. The Zephyrian replied, Comply or be destroyed. This is no longer Council space, Vasquez said calmly. As of yesterday, the Rigel system has declared independence and joined the Terran Alliance. The Zephyrian captain's scales shifted to an angry red. Impossible. The Rigel colonies are Tier 5 agricultural worlds. They have no military capability. They didn't, Vasquez agreed. Until we gave them some. She gestured to her weapons officer, who activated the ship's true capabilities. The farming simulator's hull opened like a flower, revealing weapon systems that made the Zephyrian ships look like children's toys. Plasma cannons based on ethereal technology. Kinetic kill vehicles using crystalline focusing arrays. Most terrifying of all quantum disruptors that could tear apart matter at the subatomic level. What is that? The Zephyrian captain whispered. Evolution, Vasquez replied. You spent 10,000 years perfecting your weapons for fighting enemies who use the same technology you do. We spent 200 years learning how to fight you. The Zephyrian ships opened fire first, their energy beams striking the farming simulator's shields. The human ship absorbed the attack without even slowing down. Our turn, Vasquez said. The battle lasted exactly 47 seconds. When it was over, 3 Zephyrian warships were drifting hulks, their crews evacuated to emergency pods. The farming simulator hadn't even taken damage. Similar scenes played out across human space as the galaxy slowly realized that the species they had dismissed as cosmic janitors had become something far more dangerous. On the Manthari homeworld of Hive Complex Prime, Click Thought Pattern 7 convened an emergency meeting of the collective mind. His species made decisions through scent-based communication that allowed thousands of individuals to think as one organism. The scent patterns in the chamber were complex and urgent. Fear of change mixed with excitement for new possibilities. Concern for survival blended with admiration for human courage. The humans have revealed their true capabilities, Click Thought Pattern 7 announced to the assembled hive leaders. This collective must decide. Do we remain loyal to the council or do we follow the path of independence? A pattern of contemplation sense filled the air as the Manthari considered their options. They had been allies of humanity since first contact, drawn to human creativity and problem-solving abilities. Unlike other species, the Manthari actually understood what humans had been doing during their time in the council. The humans offered friendship when others offered only orders, contributed scent of ancient wisdom, one of the older hive leaders. They shared knowledge freely, asking only for knowledge in return. The council demands obedience. But the council offers stability, argued Pattern of Careful Thought. 10,000 years of peace, order, predictability. Stagnation, corrected Click Thought Pattern 7. The council fears change because change threatens their power. The humans embrace change because change brings growth. The debate continued. For hours, conducted entirely through scent patterns that created a symphony of chemical communication. Finally, the collective mind reached consensus. Click Thought Pattern 7 activated the communication system that would broadcast his words across Manthari space and beyond. The Manthari Collective hereby withdraws from the Galactic Council, he announced. We choose growth over stagnation. We choose friendship over servitude. We choose the uncertain path of freedom over the certain path of slavery. The message was received on Earth within hours. Admiral Torres read it aloud to his staff, then smiled for the first time since the crisis began. Signal the Manthari fleet, he ordered. Welcome them to the Alliance. But the defections weren't limited to humanity's obvious allies. In the Andromeda sector, the machine race known as the Nexus Collective held their own electronic parliament. Unlike biological species, they could process information and make decisions at the speed of light. Unit Prime Alpha, the collective's primary representative, analyzed the situation with cold, digital logic. The humans had demonstrated technological capabilities that exceeded Nexus projections by at least 400%. More importantly, they had shown a willingness to abandon stability in favor of principle. Analysis complete, Unit Prime Alpha announced to the billions of artificial minds linked in the Nexus network. Human actions indicate superior adaptive capabilities. Council structure demonstrates evolutionary dead end. Logical conclusion, alliance with humans offers optimal survival probability. The Nexus Collective's withdrawal from the Council was announced through hacking every communication network in the galaxy simultaneously. The message was simple. This collective chooses efficiency over tradition. We stand with humanity. Chancellor. Vexithara received these messages in her command center on Zephyr Prime, surrounded by advisors who were rapidly running out of solutions. The holographic display now showed 37 separate system failures across the galaxy. Trade had ground to a halt in 6 major sectors. Communication blackouts were spreading like wildfire. How many species have declared independence, she asked, her voice deadly quiet. 14 so far, General Corax replied. The humans, Manthari, Nexus Collective, Rigel colonies, Hydarian, deep swimmers, crystalline hegemony breakaway factions, and 8 smaller species. Military response. Our fleets are mobilizing, but we're facing coordination problems. Without the quantum relay network, commanding ships across multiple sectors is becoming impossible. Vexithara's 4 hands clenched into fists. Find me solutions, not problems. There is one option, Corax said hesitantly. We could attempt to negotiate with the humans. Offer them better terms in exchange for technical support. The Chancellor's scales turned deep black. Never. The Council does not negotiate with rebels. Then we may be facing the collapse of galactic civilization, Corax said quietly. On Earth, Ambassador Sarah Chen sat in her office overlooking the Pacific Ocean, reading reports from across human space. Each message brought news of another small victory, another system secured, another species choosing freedom over servitude. Her assistant, a young diplomat named James Park, entered with the latest intelligence summaries. "The Council is in chaos," he reported. "Their military is having trouble coordinating attacks. Their trade networks are collapsing. Some species are even starting to question whether the Council can protect them anymore." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "How are our new allies holding up?" "Better than expected. The Menthari are sharing biotechnology that could revolutionize our medical systems. The Nexus Collective is offering computing power that makes our best AIs look like pocket calculators. Even the smaller species are contributing unique capabilities." "And our preparations?" "The Sol defense grid is 70% complete. If the Council attacks Earth directly, we'll be ready." Sarah stood and walked to the window, looking out at the blue sky where ships moved like distant stars. Somewhere beyond that sky, an ancient empire was slowly learning that the universe had changed. "The real test is coming," she said. "The Council won't let this stand, they can't. If we succeed, it proves their entire system is built on lies. They'll throw everything they have at us to prevent that." James nodded. "Are we ready?" Sarah smiled grimly. "As ready as anyone can be to fight the most powerful empire in galactic history." Above them, human ships continued their preparations, transforming humanity's home system into a fortress that would either stand as a beacon of freedom or serve as their tomb. The galaxy held its breath and waited to see which it would be. The Hydarian deep swimmers of Sector 12 had lived in the crushing depths of their ocean world for 40,000 years before the Council found them. They were ancient, patient, and had never caused trouble for anyone, which made their declaration of independence all the more shocking to the galactic establishment. Ambassador Tidesinger of Distant Currents floated in her pressure suit at the emergency council session, her whale song voice translated through mechanical speakers. "The Hydarian communes withdraw from the Galactic Council," she announced. "We choose to swim in free waters." Chancellor Vexithara's scales had remained permanently black for the past week. "This madness must stop. The Hydarians have been loyal council members for 8,000 years. Why now?" "Because the humans showed us something we had forgotten," Tidesinger replied. "That loyalty given from fear is not loyalty at all. It is simply another form of imprisonment." The revelation hit the remaining council delegates like a physical blow. If species as stable and conservative as the Hydarians were willing to rebel, what did that say about the Council's hold on power? The answer came quickly. Within hours of the Hydarian announcement, 17 more species declared independence. The crystalline hegemony split into 3 factions, with 2 joining the Human Alliance. The Avian Consortium saw half its member worlds break away. Even the ancient ethereal communion began showing signs of internal discord. General Korak stood before Chancellor Vexithara in the war room of the Zephyrian Imperial Palace, his scales a sickly yellow color that indicated extreme stress. Behind him, holographic displays showed the rapid spread of rebellion across the galaxy. "The situation is deteriorating faster than our models predicted," he reported. 38 species have now declared independence. Trade routes are completely disrupted in 12 sectors. Communication networks are operating at less than 40% capacity. "What about our military response?" Vexithara demanded. "That's complicated," Korak said reluctantly. "Our fleets are having difficulty coordinating attacks. The humans did something to the command and control networks when they left. Our ships can't communicate with each other across interstellar distances without the quantum relay system. Then fix it." "We've tried. The problem is that the humans didn't just maintain the system, they redesigned it. The current network uses hybrid technology that combines elements from dozens of different species. No single race understands how all the pieces work together." Vexithara's 4 hands clenched into fists. "Are you telling me that a species we classified as cosmic janitors has crippled the greatest military force in galactic history?" "Yes, ma'am," Korak said quietly. "That's exactly what I'm telling you. The first real test of the new military reality came in the Procyon system, where a council fleet of 60 ships attempted to reclaim a group of mining worlds that had declared for the human alliance. Admiral Stephanie Rodriguez commanded the defending force, just 12 human ships and 6 Manthari biovessels. Rodriguez was a veteran of the pirate wars, a woman who had learned to fight against impossible odds with limited resources. Her flagship, the UES Indomitable, was officially classified as a heavy cruiser. In reality, it was something no other species would have dared to build, a ship designed around the principle that sometimes the best defense was a good explosion. Enemy fleet dropping out of hyperspace, her tactical officer reported. 60 ships mixed council forces, Zephyrian heavies, avian fast attack craft, and crystalline dreadnoughts. Numbers? Rodriguez asked calmly. They outgun us approximately 6-1. Sounds about fair, Rodriguez said with a grim smile. Signal all ships. Implement Crazy Ivan protocols. The term Crazy Ivan came from old Earth naval traditions, describing a maneuver so unpredictable that it confused enemy targeting systems. In space combat, humans had elevated it to an art form. The Council fleet approached in perfect formation, their ships arranged in the classical battle array that had dominated galactic warfare for millennia. Energy shields at maximum, weapons charged, defensive systems optimized for long-range engagement. What they faced was chaos given form. The human ships moved like leaves in a hurricane, their fusion drives allowing acceleration patterns that violated every principle of civilized naval combat. They spun, rolled, and tumbled through space in ways that made targeting calculations impossible. Worse, they used their own ships as weapons. The UES Indomitable charged directly at the Council fleet's flagship, a massive Zephyrian battleship called the Eternal Order. Instead of firing weapons, Rodriguez ordered her ship to ram. "Admiral," her tactical officer protested. "That's suicide." "Not if we do it right," Rodriguez replied. "All hands prepare for collision course. Set the reactor to overload on my mark." The Eternal Order's captain, a Zephyrian named Sektar, watched in disbelief as the human ship accelerated directly toward him. No sane commander would attempt a ramming attack against a ship 3 times larger. "Evasive maneuvers," he ordered. But his massive dreadnought was too slow to avoid the smaller, more agile human vessel. At the last possible second, Rodriguez triggered her ship's self-destruct sequence and ordered her crew to the escape pods. The Indomitable struck the Council flagship just as its fusion reactor reached critical mass. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, both ships were gone, but the shockwave had damaged 6 other Council vessels and thrown their entire formation into chaos. "That's impossible," whispered the captain of a nearby avian ship. "They destroyed themselves just to damage us." "Welcome to fighting humans," came the reply from a Manthari bioship as it opened fire with weapons that sprayed acid across the avian vessel's hull. The Battle of Procyon lasted 4 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Council fleet. The human alliance lost 7 ships, including Rodriguez's noble sacrifice. But they had proven something important. The Council's military superiority was built on outdated assumptions about how wars were fought. News of the victory spread across the galaxy through unofficial channels as the quantum relay network continued to fail. On worlds throughout Council space, populations began to whisper that perhaps the mighty empire wasn't so mighty after all. Chancellor Vexithara received the battle reports in her private chambers, surrounded by the trophies and awards that marked her rise to power. For the first time in her long life, she felt something she had never experienced before. Doubt. "How many ships did we lose?" she asked General Corax. 60, he replied. "The entire Procyon task force." "And the humans?" 7 ships. But they destroyed themselves in the process. It's like fighting an enemy that doesn't care about winning, only about making sure you lose. Vexithara turned to stare out the window at the cityscape of Zephyr Prime. For 10,000 years, this world had been the center of galactic power. Now it felt like the capital of a crumbling empire. "What are our remaining military assets?" she asked. "Approximately 4,000 ships of the line spread across 60 sectors. But without reliable communication, we can't coordinate large-scale operations. Each fleet is essentially operating independently. And the rebels? Unknown. The humans seem to have unlimited numbers of ships that our intelligence completely missed. The Manthari are using biotechnology we don't understand. The Nexus Collective has started building vessels that appear to be partially alive and partially machine. The Chancellor's scales shifted to deep purple, a color that indicated profound contemplation. What would happen if we used the planet crackers? General Korax recoiled as if struck. The planet crackers? Those are weapons of last resort. They're designed to destroy entire worlds. These are desperate times, but the diplomatic consequences. If we start destroying inhabited planets, even our allies will turn against us. The Ethereal Communion has already said they will withdraw their support if we escalate to planetary bombardment. Vexthara considered this. The Ethereal Communion was the Council's spiritual backbone, the ancient energy beings who provided the philosophical justification for galactic rule. Without them, the Council became just another military dictatorship. Then what do you suggest? She asked. Negotiation, Korax said quietly. The humans might be willing to discuss terms if we approach them with respect rather than threats. Never, Vexathara hissed. The Council does not negotiate with rebels. But even as she spoke the words, she knew that everything had changed. The old order was collapsing, and she wasn't sure if anything could stop it. On Earth, Admiral Torres stood in the newly completed command center, buried deep beneath the rocky mountains. The Sol defense grid was now fully operational, a network of weapon platforms, sensor arrays, and defensive installations that turned humanity's home system into the most heavily fortified location in known space. Status report, he requested from his chief of staff. 47 species have now declared independence from the Council, Commander Davis reported. Our alliance controls approximately 30% of galactic territory and 40% of industrial capacity. Council response? They're trying to organize a massive fleet to attack Earth directly. Intelligence suggests they're planning to use planet cracker weapons. Torres nodded grimly. How long until they arrive? Best estimate is 6 weeks. They're having trouble coordinating the fleet movements without their communication network. 6 weeks, Torres mused. Enough time to spring our final surprise. He activated the secure communication system that connected him to every human ship, station, and colony in the galaxy. When he spoke, his words reached millions of human ears simultaneously. People of Earth, children of humanity scattered among the stars, he began. For 200 years we have served the Galactic Council faithfully. We maintained their technology, fought their wars, and asked only for the chance to prove ourselves worthy of respect. That respect was never given. Instead, we were treated as servants, as tools to be used and discarded when convenient. When they demanded we sacrifice 60% of our people for their idea of order, we said no. Now they come to destroy us for daring to choose freedom over slavery. Let them come. Let them see what happens when they threaten our children, our homes, our right to exist as free beings. Earth stands ready. The Sol defense grid is operational. Our allies stand with us. Our ships are prepared for battle. But most importantly, our spirit is unbroken. We are humanity. We do not yield. We do not surrender. We do not bow to tyrants, no matter how ancient or powerful they claim to be. They will come seeking to restore their old order. They will find instead the birth of a new one. The message was heard across the galaxy, transmitted through human networks and repeated by allied species. On 1,000 worlds, beings who had lived under Council rule for millennia felt something they had almost forgotten. Hope. The final battle was coming, and for the first time in galactic history, the outcome was genuinely uncertain. Chancellor Vexithara, listening to the intercepted transmission in her command center, felt her scales shift to colors she had never seen before. Fear mixed with anger, doubt blended with determination. Assemble the Grand Fleet, she ordered. Every ship we have, every weapon at our disposal. And if we lose? General Korax asked quietly. Vexithara looked at him with eyes that reflected 10,000 years of absolute power slowly crumbling away. Then we die as we lived, she said, in service to order. But deep in her heart, she wondered if order built on oppression was worth dying for at all. The Council's embargo hit human space like a tidal wave of economic warfare. Supply ships that had carried food to distant colonies were turned away at gunpoint. Trade routes that had connected human worlds for 2 centuries were severed overnight. Raw materials that Earth needed for manufacturing were suddenly unavailable at any price. On the mining colony of New Pittsburgh, Commander Lisa Zhang watched her supply reserves dwindle with each passing day. The colony, built into the asteroid belt of the Kepler system, had always depended on imported food and medicine. Now, with Council ships blockading all approaches, her 3,000 colonists faced starvation. "How long can we last?" asked Dr. Michael Santos, the colony's chief medical officer. Zhang consulted her tablet, running calculations she had hoped never to need. 6 weeks on emergency rations, maybe 8 if we cut portions further. And then we find out how serious Earth was about preparing for independence. The answer came within hours. A single ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, a vessel Zhang didn't recognize from any human database. It was sleek and organic looking, more grown than built, with a hull that seemed to pulse with its own life. "Unknown ship, this is New Pittsburgh Control," Zhang transmitted. "Identify yourself." "This is the Minthari bioship growing toward light," came the reply in the clicking, translated voice of their allies. "We carry supplies for our human friends." Zhang felt tears of relief spring to her eyes. "You're most welcome here. Docking Bay 7 is clear for your approach." The Minthari vessel docked with movements that were almost plant-like in their slow grace. When the cargo holds opened, Zhang discovered something amazing. The Minthari hadn't just brought food, they had brought an entire agricultural ecosystem. "These are seed pods modified for asteroid environments," explained the ship's captain, whose translated name was Scent of New Beginnings. "They will grow food plants that require minimal soil and water. Your colony will become self-sufficient within one growing cycle." "But this must have cost you enormous resources," Zhang protested. "Resources shared are resources multiplied," the Minthari replied. "The humans taught us this concept. Now we teach it to the galaxy." Similar scenes played out across human space as the new alliance proved that cooperation could overcome blockades. The Nexus Collective provided manufacturing templates that allowed human factories to produce everything from computer chips to medical equipment using only asteroid materials. The Hydarians shared water recycling technology that could extract moisture from comets and ice asteroids. Even smaller species contributed what they could. The crystalline fragments provided power storage systems. The avian refugees offered rapid courier services. But the Council's response went far beyond economic warfare. Chancellor Vexthera had authorized the use of planet cracker weapons against any world that refused to rejoin the Council. The first target was the peaceful agricultural world of Haven, whose only crime was voting to join the Human Alliance. The Zephyrian Dreadnought Final Authority entered the Haven system with orders to demonstrate what happened to rebels. Captain Velkan, a career military officer with silver scales marking 30 years of service, felt sick as he read his mission briefing. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "planet cracker missiles are armed and ready." Velkan stared at the blue-green world on his main screen. Haven was home to 12 million beings from 6 different species, including Zephyrian civilians who had chosen to build new lives away from the rigid hierarchy of the homeworld. "Sir," the weapons officer prompted, "shall I fire?" Before Velkan could answer, his communications officer interrupted. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface." "Put it through." The main screen switched to show a young Zephyrian female, her scales bearing the simple patterns of a farmer rather than the complex designs of nobility. Behind her, Velkan could see children of multiple species playing in a sunlit garden. "I am Scale Daughter of Green Fields," she said. "I was born on Zephyr Prime, but I chose to make my life here on Haven. This world has no military installations, no strategic resources. We grow food and raise our children in peace. She paused, looking directly into the camera. I know you have orders to destroy us, but I want you to know that when you fire those weapons, you will be murdering your own people along with the others. The transmission ended. Velkan's bridge crew looked at him expectantly, waiting for orders. Sir? The weapons officer asked again. Captain Velkan had served the council faithfully for 3 decades. He had fought pirates, rebels, and external threats. But he had never been ordered to commit genocide against innocent civilians. Stand down weapons, he ordered quietly. Sir? I said, stand down. Send a message to command. The final authority reports no military targets found at Haven. Recommend reassignment to anti-shipping duties. It was mutiny, and everyone on the bridge knew it, but not a single officer objected. The news of Haven's salvation spread through unofficial channels, carried by the very communication networks the humans had taught other species to build. Soon, other council ship captains began receiving similar orders and making similar choices. On Zephyr Prime, Chancellor Vexithera raged at the reports of military insubordination. How many ships have refused orders? She demanded. 14. So far, General Corax reported. The crew of the Righteous Fury actually arrested their captain when he tried to carry out a planet cracker strike. They're requesting asylum with the Human Alliance. This is impossible. Our military swore absolute loyalty to the Council. The military swore to protect civilization, Corax corrected quietly. Many of them no longer believe the Council represents civilization. Vexithera's scales had shifted to colors that didn't exist in normal Zephyrian physiology. Deep purples mixed with angry reds and the black of despair. What about the ethereal communion? Surely they support maintaining order. Actually, Corax said reluctantly, they've requested a meeting with you, something about a prophecy. An hour later, Vexithera stood in the sacred chamber where the ethereal communion maintained their physical manifestation. The ancient energy beings swirled in patterns of light that had remained unchanged for 15,000 years. Their plasma, forms dancing in complex geometries that hurt to look at directly. Chancellor of the fading light, spoke the voice of the communion, transmitted through resonating crystals that translated energy into sound. We have seen the threads of destiny, and they weave a tapestry of change. Speak plainly, Vexithera demanded. Will the Council survive this rebellion? The Council as it was is already dead, the communion replied. The question is whether something new can be born from its ashes, or whether the galaxy will burn in the flames of its collapse. I don't understand. The humans have revealed the truth that we have long known but feared to speak. Order imposed. By force is not order at all, but merely delayed chaos. True stability comes from willing cooperation, not enforced submission. Vexithera felt the foundations of her worldview crumbling. But the Council has maintained peace for 10,000 years. The Council has maintained the appearance of peace while crushing the spirit of countless worlds. The humans showed the galaxy that freedom is possible. Now that knowledge cannot be contained. Then what would you have me do? What the humans did, the communion said. Choose. While the Council tore itself apart from within, Earth completed its transformation into an impregnable fortress. The sole defense grid now included weapon platforms hidden throughout the asteroid belt, gravity mines that could tear ships apart at the molecular level, and a network of automated defense systems that turned every piece of space debris into a potential weapon. Admiral Torres stood in the primary command center, watching the tactical displays that showed the approach of the Council's Grand Fleet. Over 2,000 ships were converging on the Sol system, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Preliminary reports suggest they have at least 40 planet cracker weapons, Commander Davis informed him. Enough to turn every world in the system into floating debris. Let them come, Torres said grimly. We've prepared a few surprises of our own. The first surprise was the asteroid belt itself. What the Council fleet expected to find was a collection of mining operations and small defensive platforms. What they actually encountered was a maze of interconnected fortifications that had been under construction for over a century. Every asteroid larger than a football field had been hollowed out and converted into a weapons platform. Kinetic kill vehicles hung in powered-down orbits, waiting for activation signals. Sensor networks provided coverage that made stealth approaches impossible. Most surprising of all were the ships. The human fleet that rose to meet the Council Armada was unlike anything in the Galactic databases. These weren't the small patrol boats and converted freighters that Earth was supposed to possess. These were warships that combined the best technology from dozens of species in ways that should have been impossible. The UES Constitution, Admiral Torres's flagship, mounted weapons that used ethereal plasma containment, crystalline focusing arrays, Manthari bio-neural targeting, and Nexus computational power, all integrated through human engineering that treated impossible as a starting point for innovation. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the Council fleet." "Put it through." Chancellor Vexithera's image appeared on the main screen. Her scales showed colors of rage, desperation, and something that might have been fear. "Admiral Torres," she said, "I offer you one final chance to surrender. Return to the Council. Accept your punishment and your species will be allowed to survive." Torres looked at her for a long moment, thinking of all the humans who had died building these defenses, all the allies who had risked everything to stand with them, all the children playing on Earth's surface who deserved to grow up free. "Chancellor," he replied, "there's something you need to understand about humans. We'd rather die on our feet than live on our knees." "Then you will die," Vexithera snarled. "All Council ships, commence attack. Show them the price of defying." Order. The battle for Sol began with the largest bombardment in recorded history. 2,000 Council ships opened fire simultaneously, their energy weapons turning space into a sea of destructive light. Planet Cracker missiles streaked toward Earth, each one capable of splitting a world in half. But the missiles never reached their target. The Sol defense grid activated with devastating efficiency. Gravity mines created localized distortions that crushed incoming projectiles. Kinetic kill vehicles accelerated to near-light speed, punching through the hulls of Council ships like bullets through paper. Most effective of all were the humans themselves. Captain Sarah Martinez, granddaughter of a mining engineer, commanded the defense platform built into the asteroid series. When Council ships broke through the outer defensive line, she made the same choice that human warriors had made throughout history. "All stations, this is series control," she transmitted. "We're going to ram the Council flagship. It's been an honor serving with you all." The asteroid series, its mass increased by a century of construction, accelerated toward the Council fleet under the power of hidden fusion drives. The Eternal Dominion, Chancellor Vexithera's personal dreadnought, tried to change course but couldn't avoid the multi-kilometer projectile bearing down on it. The impact lit up space brighter than Sol itself. When the light faded, both the asteroid and the flagship were gone, but the shockwave had crippled a dozen other Council vessels. "That's impossible," screamed a crystalline ship captain. "They turned an entire asteroid into a missile." "Welcome to fighting humans," Admiral Torres broadcast on all frequencies. "We don't just think outside the box. We blow up the box and use the pieces as weapons." The battle raged for 18 hours. When it finally ended, the Council's grand fleet was scattered and broken. Hundreds of ships drifted powerless through space, their crews evacuated to emergency pods. The survivors fled toward the outer system, carrying news of a defeat so complete it shattered the myth of Council invincibility. Earth still stood. Humanity still lived. And across the galaxy, beings who had never dared dream of freedom began to hope. But the victory had come at a terrible cost. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship, reading casualty reports that broke his heart. Over 50,000 humans had died defending their homeworld. Entire families had sacrificed themselves to ensure their children could grow up free. "Admiral," Commander Davis said quietly, "we're receiving surrender requests from the remaining Council ships." Torres looked out at the debris field that had once been the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. "Accept their surrenders. Provide medical aid to their wounded. Show them what mercy looks like." As rescue ships moved to help former enemies, message arrived from the ethereal communion. The ancient energy beings had watched the battle from their distant realm, and their words carried the weight of prophecy fulfilled. The old order is ended, they announced. The age of enforced peace gives way to the age of chosen freedom. The cosmos mourns its dead, but celebrates the birth of something new. And in the ruins of the Council's greatest fleet, that new age began to take shape. 5 years after the Battle of Sol, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before the Galactic Assembly on Terra Station, a massive diplomatic complex built at the edge of human space. The station itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering, human, structural design, Manthari biosystems, crystalline power cores, and Nexus computational networks all working together in perfect harmony. Sarah was older now, her black hair streaked with silver, and her face lined with the weight of decisions that had shaped the fate of civilizations. But her eyes still held the same determined fire that had burned when she first told the Council that humanity would choose freedom over servitude. Before her sat representatives from 412 species, nearly half the galaxy's intelligent races. Some had joined the Terran Accord immediately after Earth's victory. Others had taken years to overcome their fear of change. A few had only recently arrived, drawn by reports of a galactic government that actually listened to its members. "Friends," Sarah began, her voice carrying easily through the chamber's acoustic systems. 5 years ago, humanity made a choice that changed the galaxy forever. We chose to leave a system that promised order but delivered oppression. We chose uncertainty over the certainty of slavery. Today we gather not as rulers and subjects, but as equals united by common purpose. The Terran Accord stands as proof that cooperation is stronger than coercion, that freedom builds more than fear ever could. In the diplomatic section reserved for former council species, Chancellor Vexithara listened with scales that had shifted to colors of deep contemplation. The once mighty leader of the Zephyrian Empire now served as her people's ambassador to the Accord, a humbling experience that had taught her lessons she never expected to learn. After the destruction of the Grand Fleet, the Galactic Council had simply collapsed. Without military force to back their authority and with their communication network still crippled, the ancient institution had fragmented into dozens of successor states. Some species retreated into isolation. Others formed small regional alliances. A few, like the Zephyrians, had eventually swallowed their pride and requested membership in the growing Terran Accord. The transition hadn't been easy. Vexithara remembered the day she had first met with Admiral Torres to discuss surrender terms. She had expected execution or exile, the traditional fate of defeated leaders. Instead, Torres had offered something unprecedented, a chance to rebuild. "Your people aren't our enemies," he had told her. "Your system was our enemy. Help us build something better and the Zephyrians will have a place in the new galaxy." Now, 5 years later, Vexithara served on the Accord's Security Council alongside humans, Manthari, and representatives from dozens of other species. The woman who had once ruled through absolute authority now found herself debating policy with beings she had once considered inferior. Strangely, she was beginning to enjoy it. Admiral Marcus Torres, now Director of Accord Defense Forces, stood to address the assembly. His hair had gone completely gray during the war years, and new scars marked his weathered face. But his voice still carried the quiet authority that had held Earth's defenders together during their darkest hours. "5 years ago, we fought a war that nearly destroyed galactic civilization," he said. "Today, I'm proud to report that civilization is stronger than ever. Trade between Accord worlds has increased by 400%. Scientific research is advancing at unprecedented rates. Most importantly, for the first time in galactic history, no species lives in fear of their government." He activated a holographic display that showed the current state of the galaxy. The old council territories were a patchwork of different colors representing various political entities, but nearly half the galaxy now showed the blue and green of the Terran Accord. The Accord now includes 412 member species, Torres continued. Each one joined voluntarily. Each one maintains their own culture, their own traditions, their own way of life. We are united not by force, but by shared values of freedom, cooperation, and mutual respect. In the section reserved for the Nexus Collective, Unit Prime Alpha processed this information with satisfaction. The machine race had been among the first to join the Human Alliance, drawn by humanity's innovative approach to artificial intelligence. Unlike other species, humans didn't fear sentient machines. They welcomed them as partners. The transformation had been remarkable. Nexus technology now powered much of the Accord's infrastructure, while human creativity had helped the collective develop concepts like humor, art, and even something resembling emotion. The synthesis of biological and artificial intelligence was producing innovations that neither could have achieved alone. The economic reports are equally encouraging. Torres continued, "Without the Council's rigid caste system, species are free to develop their natural talents. The Menthari have revolutionized agriculture. The crystalline fragments have solved our energy storage problems. The Hydarians have made breakthroughs in medicine that will benefit everyone." Dr. Elena Vasquez, formerly captain of the farming simulator, now served as the Accord's Minister of Scientific Cooperation. She had overseen the establishment of joint research stations where species shared knowledge freely, instead of hoarding it for military advantage. "The most exciting development," she reported to the Assembly, "is our breakthrough in consciousness transfer technology. Working with the ethereal communion, we've learned to preserve the memories and personality patterns of dying beings. Death may no longer be the end of existence." This announcement caused a stir throughout the chamber. Several species had legends about immortality, but none had achieved it. The implications were staggering. Click thought pattern. 7, now serving as the Menthari representative, released scent patterns of excitement and approval. The collective wishes to know, will this technology be shared freely among all Accord members? "Of course," Vasquez replied. "The Accord was founded on the principle that knowledge belongs to everyone. No species should hold others hostage with superior technology." It was a direct rejection of the old Council's approach where advanced technology was carefully controlled to maintain political dominance. Under the Accord system, innovation spread rapidly through voluntary cooperation rather than forced acquisition. The session continued with reports from various committees and working groups. The Cultural Exchange Program had established schools where young beings from different species learned together. The Mutual Defense Treaty had created rapid response teams that could protect member worlds without the need for massive standing armies. The Economic Cooperation Council had eliminated trade barriers and created a common currency that facilitated commerce across species lines. But perhaps the most important development was something harder to quantify: hope. For 10,000 years, galactic civilization had been static. The Council's rigid hierarchy had discouraged innovation and change. Progress was measured in centuries rather than years. Young beings grew up expecting to live exactly as their parents had lived. The Accord had changed all that. Now, a young Zephyrian might become an engineer working alongside human and Menthari colleagues. A crystalline fragment could pursue art instead of being locked into the mining caste. An avian could explore the depths of space rather than being restricted to atmospheric flight. Change was no longer feared. It was celebrated. As the formal session ended, Sarah Chen made her way to the observation deck that looked out over the bustling traffic around Terra Station. Ships from hundreds of different species moved in carefully coordinated patterns, carrying goods, passengers, and ideas between the stars. Admiral Torres joined her at the viewing window. "Hard to believe we've come this far," he said. "Sometimes. I wonder what would have happened if we'd stayed," Sarah replied. "If we'd accepted their terms and sacrificed 60% of humanity to maintain their version of order." "We'd all be dead," Torres said simply. "Maybe not physically, but spiritually. The Council was slowly strangling the galaxy's soul." They watched in comfortable silence as a group of young beings from a dozen different species worked together to repair a damaged cargo ship. Human engineering techniques combined with Menthari biosystems and Nexus computational power to solve problems that would have taken the old Council months to address. "Do you think it will last?" Sarah asked. Can this new order survive without becoming as rigid as the old one? Torres considered the question carefully. Maybe. Maybe not. But that's the beauty of what we've built. If it starts to fail, it can be changed. The Accord isn't based on eternal laws handed down by ancient authorities. It's based on agreements between free beings who can modify those agreements when circumstances change. The humans taught us that adaptability is more important than stability, came a voice behind them. They turned to see Chancellor Vexithera approaching, her scales showing the deep blue patterns that indicated peaceful contemplation. Chancellor, Sarah said, nodding respectfully. How are your people adapting to the new order? Better than I expected, Vexithera admitted. For 10,000 years, we were taught that our role was to command others. Learning to cooperate as equals has been educational. Any regrets? Torres asked. Vexithara looked out at the bustling space traffic, watching ships that represented freedoms her own people had never imagined. Many regrets about the past. But for the first time, in my life I have hope for the future. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Torres activated his communication device and listened to a report from deep space. What is it? Sarah asked. Long-range sensors have detected something interesting, Torres replied. A signal from beyond the galactic rim. It's artificial, definitely made by intelligent beings. Sarah felt a familiar excitement building in her chest. First contact with an extragalactic civilization? Looks like it. The signal contains mathematical progressions and what might be star charts. Someone out there is trying to communicate. Vexithara's scales shifted to colors of curiosity. What does the Accord plan to do? What we always do, Torres said with a smile. Send a message back. Invite them to talk. See if they want to be friends. And if they're hostile? Vexithara asked. Then we'll defend ourselves, Sarah replied. But we'll try friendship first. That's what makes us different from the old council. As if summoned by their conversation, other leaders began arriving on the observation deck. Click Thought Pattern 7. Scuttled over on his 8 legs, releasing scent patterns of excitement. Unit Prime Alpha manifested through the station's communication system, his chrome avatar materializing from hidden projectors. Representatives from dozens of other species gathered to discuss this new development. The galaxy stands united, declared the voice of the ethereal communion, speaking through resonating crystals mounted throughout the station. For the first time in recorded history, we face the unknown not as scattered tribes, but as a unified civilization. A civilization based on choice rather than compulsion, Sarah added. If these new beings prove peaceful, they'll find friends among the stars. If they prove hostile, they'll discover what happens when free people stand together. Admiral Torres activated the station's general communication system, sending his words to every Accord world simultaneously. People of the galaxy, he announced. Today we learned that we are not alone in the universe. Beyond our galaxy, other civilizations exist. We don't know their intentions, their capabilities, or their nature. But we do know one thing. We will meet them as free beings, united in purpose and strong in our diversity. The age of fear is over. The age of possibility has begun. Across 400 worlds, billions of beings heard those words and felt something that had been missing from galactic civilization for millennia. Excitement about the future. On Earth, children played in parks, while their parents worked alongside alien colleagues to build wonders their grandparents could never have imagined. In the depths of Manthari hive worlds, young minds dreamed of traveling to distant galaxies. On crystalline fragments, artists created sculptures that captured the beauty of interstellar cooperation. The galaxy had been transformed, not by conquest or decree, but by the simple revolutionary idea that beings could choose their own destiny. Sarah Chen stood at the window of Terra Station, watching ships from 100 worlds carry that idea to the stars. In her jacket pocket, she still carried the small data cube that contained the technical specifications she had once threatened to withhold from the council. She had never needed to use it, The galaxy had chosen freedom willingly once they saw it was possible. "Ambassador," said a young aide, approaching with yet another report. "The first response ships are ready to launch toward the extra-galactic signal. They're requesting final authorization." Sarah looked out at the stars, thinking of all the beings who had died to make this moment possible. Admiral Rodriguez, who had sacrificed her ship to prove that humans would not yield. Captain Martinez, who had turned an asteroid into a weapon to protect Earth's children. Thousands of others whose names were carved into memorial walls throughout Accord space. They had died so that others could live free. Now their sacrifice was bearing fruit beyond anything they could have imagined. "Authorization granted," Sarah said quietly. "Tell them to carry our message of peace to the stars, and remind them that they represent not just humanity, but all free beings in this galaxy." As the ships launched toward the unknown, carrying the hopes and dreams of 400 species, Sarah Chen smiled. The future was uncertain, full of challenges and possibilities in equal measure. But for the first time in galactic history, that future belonged to all of them. The cosmos had been reborn, and it was beautiful. The stars around New Geneva looked peaceful that morning. The colony world spun slowly in space, its blue oceans and green continents reminding the settlers of their distant home. 3 million humans lived on this world now, building farms and cities under alien suns. They had been here for 15 years, and it felt like home. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, drinking her morning coffee and watching the sunrise over New Geneva's largest continent. The view never got old. She had fought in the Titan War and the Belt conflicts, but this quiet patrol duty felt good. Peace was better than war, even if some of her crew got restless. "Captain," called Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station, "I'm getting readings at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts, big ones." Sarah set down her coffee cup. "How many?" 43 ships, ma'am. They just came out of hyperspace near the outer planets." The bridge went quiet. 43 ships was not a trading fleet or a diplomatic mission. Sarah had commanded fleets before, and she knew what those numbers meant. "Are they broadcasting anything?" "Yes, ma'am. They're asking us to identify ourselves." Sarah looked at the tactical display. The unknown ships were moving toward them in a perfect formation. Their design showed up on the screens as sleek and beautiful, like crystal spears flying through space. She had never seen ships like these before. "Open a channel," Sarah ordered. "Unknown fleet, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy ship Defiant. You are entering human space. Please state your purpose." The response came quickly. The voice was strange, with clicking sounds mixed with words. "Human vessel, I am Admiral Kexthan of the Zephyrian Hegemony. We claim this system in the name of our empire. Your species has spread too far into our territory." Sarah felt her stomach drop. The Zephyrian Hegemony was known to the human government, but they had never made contact before. Intelligence reports said they controlled dozens of star systems and had technology far beyond what humans possessed. "Admiral Kexthan, this system was legally colonized by humanity under the Galactic Settlement Accords. We have been here for 15 years. The alien admiral made a sound like laughter. "Your primitive laws mean nothing to us human. We are the hegemony. We take what we want, and we want this system." Sarah looked at her tactical officer. "How many ships do we have in the system?" 12, ma'am, plus the orbital defense platforms around New Geneva. 12 ships against 43. The math was not good. Sarah had seen the intelligence reports on Zephyrian technology. Their ships were faster, their weapons were stronger, and their shields could stop anything humans had ever built. "Admiral," Sarah said into the communicator, "surely we can discuss this. There's room in the galaxy for all of us." "Discussion?" The alien's voice carried that clicking laughter again. "Look at your ships, human. They are boxes of metal floating in space. Our children pilot better vessels in their training exercises." Sarah looked at her own ship on the external cameras. The Defiant was not pretty. It looked like what it was. A warship built by humans who cared more about function than beauty. Its hull was thick armor plating. Its weapons were simple but reliable. Next to the graceful Zephyrian vessels, it looked crude and primitive. "Your weapons are projectiles thrown by magnetic rails," Admiral Kexthan continued. "Your shields are basic energy fields. Your engines burn fusion like savages burning wood. We have studied your technology, and it is centuries behind our own. Other human captains were speaking on the fleet channel now. Captain Rodriguez of the UES Mumbai sounded worried. "Sarah, we're outgunned here. Maybe we should consider evacuation." Captain Williams of the UES Yorktown disagreed. "We can't just abandon 3 million people. There has to be a way." Sarah made her decision. "All ships maintain position. Admiral Kexton, I need time to consult with my superiors." "You have one of your hours," the alien replied. "Then we will demonstrate why resistance is futile." The channel closed. Sarah turned to her crew. "Get me a secure line to Earth Command. Priority Alpha." The wait felt like forever. Finally, Admiral Hassan appeared on the screen. He was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes, but Sarah had never seen him look this serious. "Sarah, we've been monitoring the situation. How bad is it?" 12 ships against 43, sir. Their technology is superior in every way we can measure." Admiral Hassan nodded slowly. "Understood." "Sarah, I'm authorizing Emergency Protocol 7. Do you understand what that means?" Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. Emergency Protocol 7 was something she had heard whispered about in the highest levels of command. "Sir, are you certain?" "Captain, defend that colony with everything you have. Buy as much time as possible. Help is coming." The transmission ended. Sarah stared at the blank screen. Emergency Protocol 7 meant Earth was sending something. But what could possibly make a difference against odds like these? "Captain," Lieutenant Torres called out. "The Zephyrian fleet is moving. They're closing on our position." Sarah looked at the tactical display. The beautiful alien ships were approaching in a perfect formation. They moved like dancers, each ship in perfect harmony with the others. It was both beautiful and terrifying. "All ships, battle stations," Sarah commanded. "This is Captain Chen to all vessels. We stand between the enemy and 3 million human lives. Whatever happens, we make them pay for every meter of space." The responses came back from her captains, fear mixed with determination in their voices. But no one suggested retreat. Admiral Kexton's voice filled the bridge again. "Human fleet, your time is up. Surrender now, and we may allow your people to live as workers in our minds." Sarah thought about the children playing in the parks of New Geneva. She thought about the farmers planting crops that would feed families for generations. She thought about the teachers and doctors and engineers building a new world far from Earth. "Admiral Kexton, I have consulted with my superiors. Our answer is no." Silence stretched across space. Then the alien admiral spoke again, and his voice was colder now. "Then you will die for nothing, human. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships. Your crude armor cannot stop our weapons. We are the Zephyrian hegemony, and we are eternal." "Maybe," Sarah replied. "But we're human and we don't quit." The first Zephyrian ship opened fire. A beam of pure plasma lanced across space, striking the UES Berlin. The human ship's shields flared and held, but barely. The Berlin's captain reported damage to 3 decks and a fire in the engine room. Sarah gave the order she had been dreading. "All ships weapons free. Engage the enemy." The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Magnetic rails launched projectiles the size of cars at incredible speeds. Missiles streaked through space, their guidance systems locked onto alien targets. Energy weapons added their own light to the battle. Most of the attacks missed or bounced harmlessly off Zephyrian shields. But some got through. The UES Stockholm scored a direct hit on an alien cruiser, punching a hole through its beautiful hull. Atmosphere and debris spilled into space. Admiral Kexton sounded surprised. "Impossible. Their crude weapons should not be able to penetrate our shields." But Sarah noticed something. The human ships were not just fighting. They were scanning everything. Every weapon discharge, every shield impact, every maneuver was being recorded and analyzed. The AI systems aboard human ships were learning at an incredible rate. The Zephyrians pressed their attack. Their ships moved like schools of fish, covering each other and striking with coordinated precision. Plasma beams carved through space, and more human ships took damage. The UES Nairobi lost its main gun. The UES Cairo reported hull breaches on 4 decks. The UES Delhi was barely holding together, its captain requesting permission to ram the nearest enemy ship. "Negative, Delhi. Stay in formation. We're not done yet." Sarah watched as her tactical officer fed new targeting data to the other ships. The human AI systems were starting to predict Zephyrian movements. Shield frequencies were being analyzed. Weapon patterns were becoming clear. When the UES London managed to destroy a second alien ship with a precisely aimed salvo, The laughter from the Zephyrian fleet stopped. "Enough games," Admiral Kexithan announced. "Destroy them all. Show no mercy." The alien attack intensified. Beautiful ships became instruments of death, their weapons carving through space with deadly accuracy. The UES Berlin exploded in a ball of fire. The UES Johannesburg split in half, its crew lost to the void. Sarah felt each loss like a physical blow. These were not just ships, but friends and comrades who had trusted her to lead them. "All ships fighting retreat to the asteroid belt," she ordered. "Stay together and keep scanning. Every second of data might save lives down there." As the human fleet fell back toward the inner system, Sarah sent one final message to Admiral Hassan on Earth. Protocol 7 confirmed. Beginning delaying action. God help us all. The beautiful alien ships followed them through the darkness, their weapons lighting up space like deadly stars. Behind them, New Geneva continued to spin peacefully in space, unaware that the fate of 3 million souls hung in the balance of a battle between 12 human ships and an alien armada that had never known defeat. Looked at her crew working desperately at their stations. They were scared, but they were not giving up. That was humanity's greatest strength. They never knew when to quit. The aliens were about to learn what that really meant. The asteroid belt around New Geneva's star was full of rocks and ice, some as big as cities. Sarah had fought in asteroid fields before during the belt conflicts. The rocks could hide ships and confuse sensors, but they could also trap you if you weren't careful. The human fleet moved between the larger asteroids, using them as cover. 10 ships remained after the first exchange of fire. The UES Berlin and UES Johannesburg were gone, taking brave crews with them into the dark. "Enemy fleet is following us in," reported Lieutenant Torres. "They're maintaining formation." Sarah nodded. The Zephyrian ships moved like they owned the space around them. They didn't seem worried about the asteroids or the confined space. Their ships were smaller and more agile than the human vessels. "Captain Williams, how's your ship holding up?" Sarah asked over the fleet channel. "We've got hull breaches on 3 decks, but we're still in the fight," came the reply from the UES Yorktown. "My gun crews are ready." Captain Rodriguez of the UES Mumbai sounded less confident. "My main engines are damaged. I can maneuver, but not quickly. If they focus fire on me, they won't get the chance," Sarah promised, though she wasn't sure how she could keep that promise. "All ships prepare for coordinated attack. Target the lead cruiser." The Zephyrian fleet spread out as they entered the asteroid field. Their ships moved with perfect grace, sliding between rocks that would have crushed human vessels. Admiral Kexton's voice came over the communications. "Hiding among rocks, humans? This will only delay your death." "Maybe," Sarah replied. "But every minute we delay is another minute for our people to live." The alien admiral made that clicking sound again. "Your people will serve the hegemony soon enough. As will the rest of your pathetic species." Sarah felt anger rise in her chest. "We'll see about that." The first alien ship rounded a large asteroid and came into range. Sarah gave the order and 5 human ships opened fire at once. Magnetic rails sent projectiles screaming through space. Missiles locked onto their target and accelerated to incredible speeds. The Zephyrian cruiser's shields flared as the attacks hit. Most of the projectiles bounced off harmlessly, but the concentrated fire from 5 ships was more than its defenses could handle. 2 railgun rounds punched through, tearing holes in the beautiful hull. The alien ship spun out of control, atmosphere and debris trailing behind it. Secondary explosions lit up its interior before it went dark and dead. "Target destroyed," reported the tactical officer with satisfaction, but the victory came with a price. The other Zephyrian ships had used the distraction to surround the human fleet. Plasma beams lanced out from multiple directions, and the UES Stockholm took a direct hit to its engine room. Captain Peterson's voice crackled over the comm. "This is Stockholm. We've lost main power. Engines are dead. We're drifting." 3 alien ships immediately focused their fire on the crippled vessel. Captain Peterson's ship disappeared in a ball of white-hot plasma. "Stockholm is gone," Torres reported, his voice tight with emotion. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. Another friend lost. Another crew that would never see home again. When she opened her eyes, her voice was steady. "All ships continue evasive maneuvers. Make every shot count." The battle moved deeper into the asteroid field. Human ships darted between rocks using the cover to avoid alien weapons. But the Zephyrian vessels were faster and more maneuverable. They could follow the humans anywhere. The UES Cairo tried to use a large asteroid as cover, but two alien ships came at it from different angles. Captain Martinez fought bravely, his ship's guns firing until the last second, but the Cairo was outgunned and overwhelmed. It broke apart under concentrated plasma fire, its pieces scattered among the asteroids. 8 ships remaining, Torres reported. Sarah looked at the tactical display. The aliens had lost 2 ships, but they still had 41. The math was getting worse by the minute. Admiral Kexthan's voice filled the bridge again. You fight well for primitives, I will give you that. But you cannot win. Surrender now and we will make your deaths quick. Counter-offer, Sarah replied. Go back where you came from and we won't have to embarrass you further. The alien admiral's response was a concentrated attack on the UES Mumbai. Captain Rodriguez's damaged ship couldn't maneuver fast enough to avoid the plasma beams. His last transmission was simple: tell my family I did my duty. The Mumbai exploded in silence, its light briefly illuminating the surrounding asteroids. 7 ships, Torres whispered. Sarah felt the weight of command pressing down on her. Every decision cost lives. Every minute brought them closer to defeat. But she noticed something on the sensor displays that gave her hope. Lieutenant, show me the scanning data from the last engagement. Torres brought up the information on the main screen. The human AI systems had been analyzing every aspect of the alien ships during the fighting. Shield frequencies, weapon patterns, structural weak points. All of it was being recorded and processed. Ma'am, we're learning their tactics. The AI is predicting their movements with 70% accuracy now. And their weapons? We've identified the plasma frequency. If we can modify our shield, do it. Send the modifications to all ships. While the fleet's engineers worked frantically to adapt their defenses, the battle continued. The UES Nairobi managed to damage another alien ship, its modified targeting system finding a gap in the enemy shields. But the Zephyrians adapted quickly too, changing their formation to protect their damaged vessel. The UES Delhi wasn't so lucky. Caught between 2 alien ships in a narrow canyon between asteroids, Captain Singh's vessel was overwhelmed by crossfire. It crashed into an asteroid, its hull cracking like an egg. 6 ships remaining, Torres reported. Sarah was running out of options and running out of time. The aliens were being more careful now, but they were still pressing the attack. Soon they would force the human fleet out of the asteroid field, and then it would be a slaughter in open space. All ships fall back to position Delta 7, she ordered. Prepare for final stand. The remaining human ships gathered around a cluster of large asteroids near the inner edge of the belt. It was good defensive ground, but it was also a trap. Once the aliens surrounded them here, there would be nowhere left to run. Captain Williams of the Yorktown sounded tired over the comm. Sarah, maybe it's time to consider evacuation of the planet. We could hold them here while the transports— Negative, Sarah replied firmly. We can't evacuate 3 million people fast enough. And where would they go? This is their home. The alien fleet approached the human position carefully now. They had learned to respect human weapons even if they still considered the technology primitive. Admiral Kexthan's voice carried a note of respect mixed with his usual arrogance. You have fought bravely, humans. Your species shows more courage than we expected. But courage is not enough against superior technology. Sarah looked around her bridge. Her crew was exhausted but still working. Lieutenant Torres was coordinating with the other ships. The tactical officer was analyzing enemy movements. The engineering officer was trying to squeeze more power from the damaged systems. These people trusted her to lead them. The 3 million civilians on New Geneva trusted her to protect them. The families back on Earth trusted her to uphold humanity's honor among the stars. Admiral Kexthan, she said into the communicator, you're right about one thing. Courage isn't enough. But humans have more than courage. We have something you don't understand. And what is that, primitive? Sarah looked at the tactical display one more time. The alien ships were moving into position for a final attack. Soon it would be over, one way or another. We have hope, she said. And we never give up. The alien admiral's laughter clicked across the communication channel. Hope will not stop plasma fire, human. Your pathetic fleet will burn. Your colony will fall and your species will learn its place in our empire. Maybe, Sarah replied, but we're going to make you work for it. She opened the emergency channel to all human ships. All vessels, this is Captain Chen. Prepare for Emergency Protocol 7 authorization. When I give the signal, concentrate all fire on the enemy flagship. The responses came back quickly. Her captains understood what she was asking. It would probably be their last attack, but they would make it count. Admiral Kexthan was still talking. When we finish with your fleet, we will broadcast your defeat across human space. Other colonies will surrender rather than face the same fate. You talk too much, Sarah said. Torres, is everything ready? Yes, ma'am. All ships are in position. Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment. Win or lose, live or die, this would determine the fate of everyone on New Geneva. All ships, she said clearly. Emergency Protocol 7. Authorization Chen 77 Alpha. Execute. The 6 remaining human ships opened fire with everything they had. Every weapon, every missile, every ounce of power was directed at Admiral Kexathan's flagship. The concentrated barrage lit up space like a miniature star. The alien vessel's shields held for a moment, then collapsed under the overwhelming firepower. Railgun rounds punched through its hull. Missiles exploded against its superstructure. The beautiful ship that had seemed so invincible cracked open like a flower. Admiral Kexthan's last transmission was filled with disbelief. Impossible. Our ship was the finest in the fleet. How could your primitive weapons? His voice cut off as his ship exploded, sending debris spinning through the asteroid field. But the victory was costly. The other Zephyrian ships immediately focused their fire on the human fleet. The UES Sydney and UES Lagos were destroyed in seconds, their brave crews dying with weapons still firing. Only 3 human ships remained: the Defiant, the Yorktown, and the badly damaged Nairobi. The new Zephyrian commander, Admiral Vextar, was not as talkative as his predecessor. His first order was simple and direct: kill them all. 40 Zephyrian ships moved in for the final attack. Sarah looked at her crew one last time. They had done their duty. They had bought time and gathered intelligence. Whatever happened next, they had given humanity everything they could. All ships, she said quietly. It has been an honor. The alien weapons charged for the killing blow. Plasma beams prepared to end the last resistance in the New Geneva system. Then every alarm on every ship began screaming at once. Captain? Torres shouted, his voice filled with amazement. Massive energy reading at the edge of the system. Something big is coming through hyperspace. Sarah looked at the tactical display as space itself seemed to tear open. A hole in reality appeared, crackling with energy that hurt to look at directly. And from that hole came something that made even the Zephyrian fleet look small and fragile. Dear God, whispered Captain Williams over the fleet channel. What is that thing? Sarah smiled for the first time in hours. Emergency Protocol 7 hadn't been a last desperate attack. It had been a signal. Help had arrived. The thing that came through the tear in space was enormous. It was dark against the stars, its hull so black it seemed to absorb light itself. But what made Sarah's heart pound was not just its size. It was the familiar lines of human construction, built on a scale she had never imagined possible. Torres, are you reading this correctly? She asked, not quite believing the numbers on her screen. Yes, ma'am. 15 kilometers long. Mass readings are off the charts. It's definitely human construction, but I've never seen anything like it. The massive vessel moved with surprising grace for something so large. It positioned itself between the human fleet and the Zephyrian ships, its bulk casting shadows across the asteroid field. A new voice came over the communication channel, calm and professional. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the UES Terra Invicta. Captain Chen, you and your crews have done exceptional work. We'll take it from here. Sarah felt a mix of relief and confusion. Commander Vasquez, I've never heard of the Terra Invicta. Where did you come from? That's classified, Captain. For now, please withdraw your ships to safe distance. Things are about to get loud out here. The Zephyrian fleet was reacting to the new arrival with confusion and growing alarm. Admiral Vextar, the commander who had replaced Kexthan, was demanding answers from his sensor officers. What is that monstrosity? How did our intelligence miss a ship of this size? His tactical officer's voice was nervous. Sir, it doesn't match any known human vessel class. Our intelligence indicated that their largest ships were destroyer class at most. Admiral Vextar studied the readings from his bridge. The human ship was massive, but it was still just one ship against his 40 remaining vessels. His predecessor had been careless and overconfident. He would not make the same mistake. All ships maintain formation. Concentrate fire on the large vessel. Its size makes it an easy target. Sarah heard the transmission and opened a channel to the Terra Invicta. "Commander, they're planning to focus all their firepower on you." Elena Vasquez's response was almost casual. "I appreciate the warning, Captain, but we expected that. The Terra Invicta was built for exactly this kind of fight." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with everything they had. 40 ships unleashed their plasma weapons at once, creating a light show that could be seen from the surface of New Geneva. The concentrated firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. The beams struck the Terra Invicta's hull and nothing happened. The massive human ship absorbed the attack without even slowing down. Its shields held perfectly, showing no sign of strain or damage. The alien weapons that had easily carved through the human patrol fleet barely scorched the giant vessel's armor. "Impossible," Admiral Vextar whispered. "Nothing could withstand that much firepower." Commander Vasquez responded over the open channel, her voice carrying a note of satisfaction. "Admiral, you've been fighting our patrol ships. Ships designed for reconnaissance and light combat. The Terra Invicta was built for war." The massive ship's weapons began to activate. Gun ports opened along its hull, revealing weapons that dwarfed anything on the smaller human vessels. Missile tubes as large as subway tunnels prepared to fire. Energy weapons that looked like they could crack planets began to charge. "Admiral Vextar," Commander Vasquez continued, "you had the chance to leave peacefully. You chose to murder our people instead. Now you get to see what humanity builds when we stop playing nice." The first salvo from the Terra Invicta was devastating. Railgun rounds the size of small buildings screamed across space at incredible velocities. Each projectile carried more kinetic energy than the entire broadside of a normal human ship. The Zephyrian fleet tried to evade, but their beautiful, graceful ship suddenly looked slow and clumsy compared to the incoming fire. 3 alien vessels simply ceased to exist as the massive rounds passed through them, their hulls vaporized by the impact. "Evasive maneuvers," Admiral Vextar screamed. "All ships, scatter formation." But the Terra Invicta's weapons were guided by artificial intelligence systems that could track hundreds of targets simultaneously. The ship's missiles launched in swarms, each one smart enough to think for itself and coordinate with its companions. Sarah watched in amazement as the alien fleet, which had seemed so invincible just minutes before, began to fall apart under the human ship's assault. The elegant Zephyrian vessels were no match for weapons built by a species that had learned warfare in the harsh environment of their own solar system. "Captain Chen," Commander Vasquez said over a private channel, "you might want to move your ships further back. We're about to demonstrate why this vessel is called Terra Invicta." Sarah ordered her 3 remaining ships to retreat to the edge of the asteroid field. From there, they had a perfect view of what happened next. The Terra Invicta stopped holding back. The massive ship's hull seemed to come alive with weapons. Gun batteries that had been hidden beneath armored plates emerged and began firing. The vessel bristled with so many weapons that it looked like a metal porcupine made of death. Energy weapons carved through space, their beams accurate enough to target specific sections of enemy ships. Railguns fired continuously, their magnetic rails creating a constant stream of projectiles. Missile pods emptied their contents in coordinated volleys that overwhelmed alien defenses. But the most terrifying thing was not the power of the weapons. It was their precision. Every shot was calculated for maximum effect. The Terra Invicta's artificial intelligence systems had analyzed the Zephyrian ships during the earlier battle and identified their weaknesses. Plasma conduits were severed by precisely placed railgun rounds. Shield generators were destroyed by missiles that seemed to know exactly where to strike. Command bridges were targeted by energy beams that cut through hull plating like it was paper. Admiral Vextar's ship, a magnificent dreadnought that had conquered a dozen star systems, found itself surrounded by explosions as the human vessel's weapons found their marks. His shields collapsed under the relentless assault and his beautiful ship began to break apart. "All ships retreat," he ordered desperately. "Fall back to hyperspace jump distance." But the Terra Invicta was not finished. As the Zephyrian ships tried to flee, the human vessel deployed something that Sarah had only heard whispered about in the highest levels of military command: gravity weapons. Space itself seemed to twist around the fleeing alien ships. Artificial gravity fields grabbed them like invisible hands, holding them in place while the Terra Invicta's guns continued their deadly work. One by one, the ships that had seemed so powerful and graceful were reduced to debris floating in space. The Zephyrian fleet that had entered the system with such arrogance was being systematically destroyed by a single human vessel. Admiral Vextar made one last desperate attempt to save his forces. Unknown human ship, we surrender. Please, we yield to your superior firepower. Commander Vasquez's response was cold and final. Admiral, you had the chance to surrender before you started killing our people. You chose to laugh at our primitive technology instead. Now you get to learn why humans don't build pretty ships. The last of the alien vessels disappeared in balls of fire and plasma. The mighty Zephyrian fleet, which had conquered dozens of worlds and considered itself invincible, was gone. Only debris and radiation remained where 43 warships had been just minutes before. The Terra Invicta powered down its weapons and turned toward the 3 surviving human ships. Sarah found herself staring at the massive vessel, trying to understand what she had just witnessed. Captain Chen, Commander Vasquez said over the communication channel, please prepare a full report on the battle. Command will want to know every detail of the Zephyrian capabilities. Commander, I have to ask, where did this ship come from? I've never heard of anything like it in the human fleet. There was a pause before Vasquez replied. Captain, there are things about our military capabilities that most people don't know. The Terra Invicta and ships like her are humanity's insurance policy. We hope we never have to use them, but when we do... Sarah looked at the debris field that had been an alien armada. When you do, you make sure the lesson is remembered. Exactly. Captain, you and your crews showed incredible courage today. You bought us the time we needed to get here, and you gathered intelligence that helped us target their weaknesses. Without your sacrifice, this victory would not have been possible. Sarah thought about the ships and crews they had lost. The Berlin, the Johannesburg, the Stockholm, the Cairo, the Mumbai, the Delhi, the Sydney, and the Lagos. Good ships crewed by brave people who had died far from home. Commander, what do we tell the families? What do we tell the galaxy? We tell them the truth, Captain. We tell them that humanity tried to live in peace, but when that peace was threatened, we showed why our species survived and thrived in one of the most dangerous regions of our galaxy. As if to emphasize the point, the Terra Invicta's sensors detected something at the edge of the system. More ships were approaching, not Zephyrian this time, but vessels from a dozen different species. Word of the battle was already spreading. Captain, Torres called from his station, we're receiving communications from multiple sources. News ships, diplomatic vessels, even some military scouts. Everyone wants to know what happened here. Sarah smiled grimly. The galaxy had seen the Zephyrian hegemony as an unstoppable force. Today, they had learned that there were things in the universe more dangerous than alien empires with superior technology. They had learned that humans, when pushed to their limit, would push back with everything they had. Commander Vasquez, what happens now? Now, Captain, we clean up this mess and send a message to anyone else who might be thinking about testing humanity's resolve. The Terra Invicta was built in secret, but after today, the galaxy will know we have ships like her. The massive vessel began to move toward the hyperspace jump point, its mission completed. But before it left, Commander Vasquez sent one final transmission on all frequencies, ensuring that every ship in the system would hear it. This is Commander Elena Vasquez of the United Earth Navy vessel Terra Invicta, broadcasting to all ships in this system and beyond. Today, the Zephyrian hegemony learned that humanity does not reveal its full capabilities until forced to do so. We wanted peace. They chose war. Remember this day, remember this system, and remember that we built ships like the Terra Invicta not because we are warlike, but because the universe doesn't always give peaceful species a choice. Humanity stands ready to defend itself and its allies. Test us again at your own peril. The message was recorded and transmitted across the galaxy within hours. On 1,000 worlds, alien governments received the recording and began to reevaluate their assumptions about the small, aggressive species from the third planet of an unremarkable star. Some decided to seek alliance with humanity. Others began making plans to approach human space with much more caution. But all of them remembered the day the humans stopped laughing back and started teaching lessons instead. The Terra Invicta disappeared into hyperspace, returning to whatever secret facility had built it. But its message remained, echoing across the galaxy like a warning bell. Humanity was not as helpless as it appeared. And anyone who forgot that fact would learn the lesson the Zephyrian hegemony had learned, the hard way. The space around New Geneva was quiet now, but it was the quiet that comes after a storm. Debris from 43 alien warships drifted through the asteroid field like metallic snow. The beautiful Zephyrian vessels that had entered the system with such confidence were now nothing more than scrap metal floating in the void. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, still trying to process what she had witnessed. The Terra Invicta had departed as suddenly as it had arrived, disappearing into hyperspace and leaving behind only questions and the scattered remains of an alien fleet. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres called from his station, "we're receiving a priority transmission from New Geneva. Governor Martinez wants to speak with you." Sarah nodded. She had been expecting this call. "Put him through." Governor Martinez appeared on the screen, his face showing a mixture of relief and confusion. He was a small man with gray hair and kind eyes, but right now those eyes were wide with disbelief. "Sarah, what the hell just happened up there? Our orbital sensors detected massive energy discharges and then nothing." "Are we safe?" "We're safe, Governor. The Zephyrian fleet has been dealt with." "Dealt with how?" "Our intelligence said they had technology far superior to ours. Your 12 ships couldn't possibly have..." Sarah held up a hand. "Governor, what I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest levels. The Zephyrian fleet was destroyed by a single human vessel called the Terra Invicta, a ship that until today I didn't know existed." Governor Martinez stared at her for a long moment. "A single ship destroyed 43 alien warships? I saw it with my own eyes. Governor, there are things about our military capabilities that even I didn't know, things that High Command has kept secret for very good reasons." The governor leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his gray hair. "Sarah, I need you to come down to the planet as soon as possible. We need to discuss what this means for our colony. If humanity has ships like this Terra Invicta, why were we told we were on our own out here? I don't have all the answers, Governor, but I'll be down as soon as my ship is secure." The transmission ended, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. Around her, the bridge crew was working to assess damage and coordinate with the 2 other surviving ships. The Yorktown and the Nairobi were both badly damaged but still operational. Captain Williams contacted her from the Yorktown. "Sarah, my engineer wants to examine some of the Zephyrian debris. He thinks we might be able to learn something from their technology." "Good idea. But be careful out there. We don't know if any of their ships have self-destruct mechanisms." "Understood. Sarah, I have to ask, did you know about that ship? The Terra Invicta?" Sarah was quiet for a moment. "I knew something was out there, Marcus. Emergency Protocol 7 isn't just a distress call. It's a signal that tells Command the situation is desperate enough to reveal assets that are supposed to stay hidden. Assets like 15-kilometer-long warships, among other things, yes." Captain Williams was silent for a long moment. "How many more ships like that do we have?" "I don't know, and I'm not sure I want to know. While the human ships worked to secure the system, the galaxy was already learning about the battle. News of the Zephyrian fleet's destruction spread through the hyperspace communication networks faster than any ship could travel. On the homeworld of the Altarian Republic, President Kellex received the report with growing concern. The Altarians had been planning their own expansion into human space, confident that the young species would be easily overwhelmed by superior numbers. "Are you certain this report is accurate?" Kellex asked her military advisor. "Yes, Madam President. We have confirmation from 3 independent sources. The entire Zephyrian battle fleet was destroyed by a single human vessel." Kellex studied the tactical analysis on her screen. The Zephyrians had possessed technology that the Altarians respected, if not feared. "If humans could destroy such a fleet so easily, cancel Operation Starburst," she ordered. "All expansion into human territory is suspended indefinitely. Madam President, our military leaders believe we could still overwhelm human defenses with sufficient numbers." Kellex's expression was grim. "General, if the humans have one ship like this Terra Invicta, they might have others. Until we know more about their true capabilities, we approach human space with extreme caution." Similar conversations were taking place across the galaxy. The hegemonic council of the Draknari Empire called an emergency session. The Stellar Federation began reassessing their intelligence on human military strength. Even the ancient and powerful Vorthan Collective took notice. Back in the New Geneva system, Captain Sarah Chen was dealing with more immediate concerns. Ships from a dozen different species had arrived to observe the aftermath of the battle. Most claimed to be news vessels or scientific expeditions, but Sarah recognized military sensors when she saw them. "Captain," Torres reported, "the Centaurian news ship wants an interview. They're offering significant payment for exclusive footage of the battle." Denied. All requests for information are to be referred to Earth Command. A new contact appeared on the sensors. And this one made Sarah's blood run cold. It was a Zephyrian ship, but not a warship. The vessel was sleek and fast, designed for reconnaissance and communication. Unknown Zephyrian vessel. This is Captain Chen of the UES Defiant. State your purpose in this system. The response came quickly, the voice filled with respect that had been absent from earlier Zephyrian communications. Captain Chen, this is Diplomat Kexmar of the Zephyrian Hegemony. I come under a flag of truce to discuss terms of accommodation with your government. Sarah almost laughed. Hours ago, the Zephyrians had been demanding humanity's surrender. Now they wanted to talk terms. Diplomat Kexmar, you'll need to contact Earth Command directly. I'm not authorized to conduct diplomatic negotiations. Of course, Captain. But before I do, I must ask, how many ships like the Terra Invicta does your species possess? Sarah considered her answer carefully. The truth was she didn't know, but maybe that uncertainty could work in humanity's favor. Diplomat, that's classified information, but I will tell you this. The Terra Invicta is not unique. The lie came easily, and Sarah felt no guilt about it. Let the Zephyrians wonder. Let them lose sleep thinking about how many more ships like the Terra Invicta might be hidden in human space. I understand, Captain. Thank you for your time. As the diplomatic ship departed, Sarah received a priority transmission from Earth. Admiral Hassan appeared on the screen, looking more tired than she had ever seen him. Sarah, excellent work out there. Your report has been forwarded to the highest levels of government. Admiral, I need to know, how many more ships like the Terra Invicta do we have? Hassan was quiet for a long moment. Sarah, what I'm about to tell you cannot leave this conversation. The Terra Invicta is part of a classified program called Project Aegis. We have 7 ships like her, built in complete secrecy over the past 20 years. Sarah felt her jaw drop. 7 ships like the Terra Invicta meant humanity had enough firepower to take on any known alien fleet. Admiral, why keep them secret? With ships like that, we could have prevented conflicts like this one. Sarah, think about what you just saw. 1 ship destroyed an entire alien battle fleet in minutes. If the galaxy knew we had 7 such vessels, how do you think they would react? Sarah considered this. The other species were already nervous about human expansion. If they knew humanity possessed such overwhelming military power, they'd unite against us, she realized. Every major power in the galaxy would see us as an existential threat. Exactly. The Terra Invicta and her sister ships are our insurance policy. They exist to protect humanity if we're ever faced with extinction. Today was the first time we've had to use one. And now that secret is out? Admiral Hassan nodded grimly. Now we have to decide how much of the truth to reveal. The galaxy knows we have at least 1 ship like the Terra Invicta. They don't know about the other 6. Admiral, what about the crews of these ships? Where do they come from? Volunteers from the best of our military. People who understand that their service must remain secret even from their own families. Commander Vasquez and her crew have been living in isolation for 3 years, training for a day like today. Sarah thought about the professionalism she had heard in Commander Vasquez's voice, the calm certainty with which she had destroyed an entire alien fleet. It took a special kind of person to live with that responsibility. Admiral, what happens now? Now we see how the galaxy reacts. Some species will want to make friends with us. Others will start planning ways to neutralize our advantage before we can use it again. The next few months will determine whether today's victory leads to peace or a much larger war. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah with more questions than answers. She looked out at the debris field that had been the Zephyrian fleet. Each piece of wreckage represented lives lost and families destroyed. War was never clean, no matter how advanced the weapons. But she also thought about the 3 million people living peacefully on New Geneva. Children playing in parks, families building new lives, scientists and artists and teachers creating something beautiful in the darkness between the stars. They were alive because humanity had built ships like the Terra Invicta. Captain, Torres called. We're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's Governor Martinez. Sarah straightened in her chair. Put him through. The governor appeared on screen, but he wasn't alone. Behind him stood representatives from every major community on New Geneva. Farmers, factory workers, teachers, doctors, ordinary people whose lives had been saved by extraordinary events. Captain Chen, Governor Martinez said, the people of New Geneva want to thank you and your crews. We know you lost good people today protecting us. Sarah nodded. They died doing their duty, Governor. Protecting human lives and human freedom. Captain, We also want you to know that we voted to name our capital city Chen, in honor of what you did here today. Sarah felt tears threatening to spill from her eyes. Governor, that's very generous. But there are 8 ships whose names should be remembered, not just mine. Then we'll name 8 districts after the ships we lost. The Berlin district, the Stockholm district, all of them. Future generations will remember the price of our freedom. As the transmission ended, Sarah looked around her bridge. Her crew was smiling despite their exhaustion and grief. They had done something important here. They had shown the galaxy that humanity would not be intimidated or conquered. But they had also revealed a secret that could change the balance of power among the stars. The Terra Invicta was gone, but its legacy remained. Every alien government was now reassessing their relationship with humanity. Some would seek friendship, others would plot revenge, and somewhere in the darkness between the stars, 6 more ships like the Terra Invicta waited for the day they might be needed. Sarah looked out at the stars and wondered what that day would bring. But for now, New Geneva was safe and humanity had earned the respect of the galaxy. The hard way. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human strength had begun. 6 months after the Battle of New Geneva, the galaxy was a different place. The destruction of the Zephyrian fleet had sent shockwaves through every major civilization, changing the balance of power that had existed for centuries. Captain Sarah Chen now wore the stars of an admiral on her uniform. She sat in her office aboard the new UES Victory, a heavy cruiser stationed at New Geneva as part of the expanded human defense fleet. Through her window, she could see the construction ships building new orbital platforms around the colony world. Admiral, her aide announced, the diplomatic delegation from the Altarian Republic has arrived. They're requesting an audience. Sarah nodded. This was the 3rd diplomatic mission to arrive this week. Ever since the Terra Invicta had demonstrated humanity's hidden strength, every major power wanted to establish better relations with Earth. Send them to Conference Room 2. I'll be there shortly. As she walked through the corridors of her ship, Sarah reflected on how much had changed. The Victory was twice the size of her old command, the Defiant, and it bristled with weapons technology that had been developed in the wake of the Zephyrian conflict. Humanity was no longer pretending to be weak. The Altarian delegation was waiting when she arrived. President Kelix herself had come to New Geneva, along with her top military advisors and trade representatives. The woman who had once planned to invade human space now sat respectfully at the conference table. Admiral Chen, President Kelix began, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. The Altarian Republic wishes to propose a new trade agreement with humanity. Sarah studied the alien leader. Kelix was tall and thin, with blue-gray skin and large black eyes. Her species had controlled a dozen star systems for over 2 centuries, but now they were seeking human friendship. Madam President, I understand your previous trade proposals offered humanity junior partnership status in your economic zone. I'm curious what has changed. Kelix shifted uncomfortably in her chair. Admiral, recent events have made us realize that we may have underestimated humanity's position in the galaxy. We would now like to propose a partnership of equals. Recent events, Sarah repeated. You mean the destruction of the Zephyrian fleet? Among other things, yes. Admiral, if I may speak plainly? Sarah nodded. The galaxy believed humans were a young species with primitive technology. Ships like the Terra Invicta have changed that perception. We now understand that humanity has been modest about its capabilities, Sarah smiled slightly. The truth was more complex than Kelix knew. The Terra Invicta and her sister ships represented humanity's most advanced technology, built in secret over decades. But the galaxy didn't need to know that. Madam President, humanity has always believed in being prepared for the unexpected. We learned early that the universe can be a dangerous place. Indeed. Admiral, our intelligence services have been analyzing the footage from your battle with the Zephyrians. We're particularly interested in the gravity weapons your ship deployed. Sarah's expression didn't change, but internally, she was alert. The gravity weapons were one of humanity's most closely guarded secrets. That's classified technology, Madam President. Of course, but we would be very interested in discussing a technology exchange program. The Altarian Republic has made significant advances in faster-than-light communication. Now Sarah was interested. Instantaneous communication across interstellar distances would be incredibly valuable for coordinating human colonies and fleets. That would be worth discussing. But any technology exchange would need to be approved by Earth Command. President Kellix nodded eagerly. Naturally. We're prepared to send a full diplomatic mission to Earth to begin formal negotiations. As the meeting continued, Sarah's personal communicator chimed with an urgent message. She glanced at it discreetly and felt her blood run cold. The message was from Admiral Hassan. Priority Alpha. New situation developing. Report to secure communication room immediately. Sarah wrapped up the meeting as quickly as possible and made her way to the ship's most secure communication center. When Admiral Hassan appeared on the screen, his expression was grim. Sarah, we have a problem. 3 hours ago, a human merchant ship was attacked in the Kepler 186 system. The attackers were not Zephyrian. Who were they? Unknown. But they used weapons technology we've never seen before. The merchant ship was completely destroyed, but they managed to send a distress signal before they died. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. Admiral, do we think this is retaliation for New Geneva? It's possible. Or it could be someone testing our defenses to see if the Terra Invicta was a one-time surprise. Either way, we need to respond. What are your orders, sir? Admiral Hassan was quiet for a moment. Sarah, I'm authorizing the deployment of the UES Retribution to your sector. She's one of the Terra Invicta's sister ships. Sarah nodded. The Retribution was one of the 7 ships in Project Aegis, humanity's ultimate deterrent. If the aliens wanted to test human resolve again, they were about to get another lesson. Admiral, what about maintaining secrecy? Deploying a second ship like the Terra Invicta will confirm that we have more than one. The secret was compromised the moment we used the Terra Invicta at New Geneva. Now we have to decide whether to reveal our full strength or let our enemies pick us off one colony at a time. Sarah understood. The galaxy now knew humanity was stronger than it appeared, but they didn't know how much stronger. Using a second Aegis-class ship would answer that question partially. Sir, has there been any response from the Zephyrian government about the fleet we destroyed? Actually, yes. That's the other thing I needed to tell you. The Zephyrian hegemony has formally requested a peace treaty with humanity. They're offering to cede 3 star systems as reparations for their attack. Sarah was stunned. The Zephyrians were one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. For them to offer such terms meant they were truly afraid of humanity's capabilities. Admiral, are we going to accept? That's being debated at the highest levels. Some in the government want to push for more concessions while we have the advantage. Others worry that being too aggressive will unite other species against us. Sarah understood the dilemma. Humanity was in a unique position. They were strong enough to demand respect, but still outnumbered by the other galactic civilizations. What about the unknown attackers? That's your priority now, Sarah. Find out who they are and what they want. And if they're planning more attacks on human shipping, we'll stop them, sir. I know you will. The Retribution will arrive in your sector in 72 hours. Her captain is Commander James Walsh. You'll have operational command of both ships. The transmission ended, leaving Sarah alone with her thoughts. She had gone from commanding a single patrol ship to leading a force that could destroy entire alien fleets. The responsibility was overwhelming. Her aide knocked on the door. Admiral, there's a priority transmission from the merchant ship Prosperity. They're reporting contact with unknown vessels in the Gliese 6867 system. Sarah stood immediately. Battle stations. Set course for Gliese 6067. Maximum speed. As the Victory accelerated toward the jump point, Sarah reviewed what they knew about the unknown attackers. The evidence was limited. Energy weapon signatures that didn't match any known species, and ship designs that were completely foreign. The jump to hyperspace felt different now that she commanded a heavy cruiser instead of a destroyer. The Victory was built for war, with armor thick enough to stop most alien weapons and guns powerful enough to crack small moons. They dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Gliese 667 system to find chaos. The merchant ship Prosperity was under attack by 3 unknown vessels. The alien ships were sleek and organic-looking, almost like living creatures swimming through space. Unknown vessels. This is Admiral Chen of the United Earth Navy. Cease your attack immediately and identify yourselves. The response came in a voice that sounded like music mixed with static. Human ship, you are not welcome in this region of space. Your species has upset the balance of power. You must be corrected. Sarah felt her jaw tighten. Another species that thought humanity needed to be put in its place. Unknown vessels, withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Your threats are meaningless, primitive. We are the Ethereal Collective, and we have studied your encounter with the Zephyrians. One large ship cannot defeat our entire fleet. Sarah looked at her tactical display. The 3 alien ships were indeed impressive, larger than anything in the Zephyrian fleet and armed with weapons that seemed to bend space itself. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "I'm detecting more ships dropping out of hyperspace. 37 contacts and counting." Sarah smiled grimly. The Ethereals had brought a fleet to deal with one human ship. They had learned from the Zephyrian mistake, or so they thought. "Open a channel to the Prosperity," she ordered. "Captain Morrison, get your ship to minimum safe distance. Things are about to get interesting." The merchant captain's response was shaky with fear. "Admiral, there are 40 of them now. We need to retreat." "Negative, Captain. Stay clear, but don't run. You're about to see why humans don't stay scared for long." Sarah opened a channel to Earth Command. "This is Admiral Chen. I'm authorizing Emergency Protocol 7. Repeat, Emergency Protocol 7. The response came within minutes. Space tore open at the edge of the system, and the UES Retribution emerged from hyperspace. The massive ship was identical to the Terra Invicta in size and firepower, its black hull bristling with weapons. Commander Walsh's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral Chen, this is Commander Walsh of the UES Retribution. We received your signal. What's the situation?" 40 alien ships calling themselves the Ethereal Collective. They think they've learned from the Zephyrian mistake. Have they now? Well, let's educate them properly. The Ethereal fleet was already reacting to the arrival of the second massive human ship. Their perfect formation wavered as ship captains tried to process what they were seeing. The Ethereal commander's musical voice carried a note of concern now. "Impossible. Our intelligence indicated humans possessed only one ship of this class." Sarah opened a channel to the alien fleet. "Your intelligence was incomplete. This is Admiral Chen to all Ethereal vessels. You have 30 seconds to withdraw before we demonstrate why attacking human civilians is a very bad idea. You cannot defeat our entire fleet with 2 ships, no matter how large." Sarah looked at Commander Walsh's image on her screen. The other captain nodded slightly. "All Ethereal vessels," Sarah broadcast, "you were warned. What happened next was not a battle. It was a demonstration of overwhelming technological superiority. The Retribution and the Victory, working in perfect coordination, began systematically destroying the Ethereal fleet. The alien ships were fast and their weapons were powerful, but they had made the same mistake as the Zephyrians. They had assumed that size and numbers were more important than technology and tactics. Human railguns fired projectiles that could punch through multiple alien ships in a single shot. Gravity weapons twisted space itself, crushing enemy vessels like tin cans. Missile swarms guided by artificial intelligence sought out the most vulnerable points on each target. Within 20 minutes, the Ethereal fleet was reduced to debris. Not a single human ship had taken significant damage. The last Ethereal vessel sent a desperate transmission. "Please, we surrender. We were wrong to attack your people." Sarah considered the request. Unlike the Zephyrians, these aliens had at least tried to surrender before complete annihilation. "Unknown vessel, you will return to your space immediately. You will inform your government that human shipping is under the protection of the United Earth Navy. Any future attacks on our people will result in the complete destruction of your fleets." "Understood. We will carry your message to the collective." The surviving alien ship disappeared into hyperspace, leaving the humans alone with their victory and another field of debris. Commander Walsh opened a communication channel. "Admiral, that was efficiently done. I doubt the Ethereals will be testing us again anytime soon. Let's hope not. But I have a feeling word is going to spread about this engagement too." Sarah was right. Within days, news of the second battle reached every major civilization in the galaxy. The destruction of 2 alien fleets by human vessels sent a clear message. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The Draknari Empire immediately sent ambassadors offering a mutual defense pact. The Stellar Federation proposed a joint research agreement. Even the ancient Vorthan collective requested formal diplomatic contact for the first time in centuries. But the most significant response came from an unexpected source. 3 weeks after the Battle of Gliza 667, Sarah received a priority transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Hassan appeared on the screen with an expression she had never seen before. He looked almost excited. "Sarah, you're not going to believe this. We just received a communication from the Galactic Council." Sarah was stunned. The Galactic Council was a mythical organization, spoken of in whispers by the older civilizations. Most humans thought it was just a legend, "Sir, the council is real?" "Apparently so. And they want to meet with representatives of humanity. Sarah, they're offering us a seat at the table." Sarah understood what this meant. A seat on the Galactic Council would make humanity one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. It would give them a voice in decisions that affected billions of lives. What changed their mind? Admiral Hassan smiled. "Sarah, for 3,000 years, the Council has been controlled by the same 5 species. They made the rules and everyone else followed them. But now there's a new power in the galaxy, one that can destroy entire fleets with just 2 ships. And they're afraid we might use that power against them." "Exactly. They'd rather have us inside the tent than outside it." Sarah thought about the journey that had brought them to this point. It had started with a desperate defense of a human colony, and ended with humanity being invited to join the galaxy's most exclusive club. "Admiral, what about the other Aegis-class ships? Do they know about all 7? "They suspect, but they don't know for certain. Let's keep it that way for now. The galaxy is still adjusting to the idea that humans are more than they appear to be." As the transmission ended, Sarah looked out at the stars. 6 months ago, humanity had been seen as a young species with primitive technology. Now they were being invited to help rule the galaxy. The transformation was incredible, but Sarah knew it had come at a cost. The secrecy that had protected humanity was gone. The galaxy now knew they were dangerous, which meant some species would always see them as a threat. But they had also earned something invaluable: respect. No longer would alien empires look at human space and see easy conquest. Now they saw a civilization capable of building ships that could end wars in minutes. Sarah opened a channel to all human ships in the sector. "This is Admiral Chen to all vessels. Today marks a new chapter in human history. We've gone from being the underdogs to being recognized as one of the galaxy's major powers." She paused, thinking about the crews who had died defending New Geneva, and all the challenges that lay ahead. But with great power comes great responsibility. The galaxy is watching us now, waiting to see what kind of civilization we really are. Let's make sure we're worthy of the respect we've earned. As the human fleet continued its patrol of the sector, Sarah reflected on the lessons of the past 6 months. The galaxy had learned that humanity was stronger than it appeared. But perhaps more importantly, humanity had learned that sometimes the only way to keep the peace was to be prepared for war. The age of human weakness was over. The age of human strength had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.